Welcome back. And over International Museum Day, we're very delighted to be having with us over the phone Dr. Yehya Abdul, Tourism Council. Good morning, Dr. Abdul. How are you doing?
Good morning, Miss Dina. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Of course, celebrating International Museum Day. Of course, this is a very special day because it celebrates history, it celebrates antiquities, it celebrates great stories, heritage, you name it. Talk to us about that particular day and how did it originate from International Museum Day, if you'd like to elaborate.
Well, really, we are fortunate in Egypt, like a country is blessed with its antiquities, heritage, archaeology. It dates back to the ECOMOS, the International Council of Museums, who proposed a long time ago that May 18 will be the International Museums Day, so that children, families, and students will be capable, of visiting museums worldwide at no cost, and then recognizing, the achievements of their ancestors, the glory, the challenges, the struggle, and that, builds up, the national identity and the pride of a population of the world and citizens and countries as well.
Right. So, I mean, what was the idea behind celebrating or recognizing or, marking a day on calendar to celebrate Museum Day?
Well, museums worldwide, they are expensive. Entry fees, Sometimes you pay like what, $20, you pay 40 euros. So, population worldwide, they cannot afford the museums. So that made it accessible for them to visit at no cost and recognize, the achievements of that country or that city or that nation that had been, accumulated through 3,000–4,000 years ago. So when you go to the Tahrir Square, for example, and the antiquities and heritage of our ancestors, 30–40 centuries ago. So this is build up your national pride and that, motivates, to at least emulate, what in the past has been done, and it gives you motivation for achieving more in the future and recognizing the development of culture, literature, music, art, science, everything that has been recorded in the past of one nation.
Right. So, is it celebrated the same day worldwide, or on some countries they celebrate it on different, dates?
No, it's international.
Yes, exactly,
like the
but
UN
is it on the same day?
National Day, so it's worldwide. So all museums, are required, to open, the gates for a whole day for the population and visitors as well, with no cost. So it's an educational and training and culture, experience for the whole nation, because not everybody can afford, visiting a museum and pay the fees, as I already mentioned.
Exactly, but that particular day to countries like Egypt that possess 1/3 of the world monuments has a different flavor, and it has a different, attraction for people, and it is observed totally different on a different level, because we have so many museums inside Egypt, not only the museum that is a point of attraction to the visitors, but also the content of those museums is very rich also. And we have history, we have culture, we have heritage. So International Museum Day, not only a day that we could recognize the importance of museums and facilitate visiting museums for visitors, it's not only, doesn't stop at here, but also it goes beyond that and probably reflects how rich Egypt is in that particular domain. If you'd like to elaborate.
Of course, kindly, you are very quite right about, this description. Egypt, for example, currently have over 50 museums. So these 50 museums today will be open to the public since 9 o'clock until the end of the day, nationwide, all the way from Marsa Matruh to Alexandria to Luxor to Aswan to Sinai to Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada. So all museums are open for the public, and this is a great celebration because Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, they are planning, like workshops, presentations, festivals, celebrations and displays, because this is a great opportunity really for the Egyptian families and visitors as well, like to tour the facilities and check, like on the great achievements and antiquities that we have, as I already mentioned, like 30, 40 centuries ago. So it's an educational experience, it's a culture, it's a heritage, and it develops and upgrades, like the status and the identity of the population when they look, like how their forefathers and ancestors have been developing, like and achieving throughout times when they had hard times, like the 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows, like in ancient times, and how they managed to face these famines. And, like the flooding and everything that goes through our ancestry, you will find it reflected in the paintings, like in the sculpture, and the statues, and the manuscripts, and the papyrus that our grandfathers have left for us. So it's a great culture, as you already mentioned, and then we have the antiquities all over, like from Sinai up to Luxor, Aswan, and even in Abu Simbel, we have the great temples that's a witness of our great culture, heritage, and civilization.
Right, but how would such a day help in raising awareness about the fact that museums are important means of cultural exchange, enrichment of cultures, development of mutual understanding, cooperation, and even peace among the peoples? Of course, exchanging history, respecting the cultures of other countries, knowing more about the philosophies of those cultures, in a way help to enhance and empower peace in our souls. So do you think that International Museum Day is a day that could raise more awareness about those particular values between countries, and also help them to collaborate together, to come in solidarity together? Do you think, do you believe that this particular day could enhance these values?
This is quite true, and this is, like the idea of, like developing museums since ancient times, because one of the, tenets, like it promotes and develops and enhances is tolerance. For example, like Ramesses II, he had, was conducting wars, like in southern Turkey and in ancient Syria, and then he had a peace treaty. So that shows, like we were conducting peace treaties over 3,000 years ago. So this is part of the plural culture of all nations worldwide, and we have still contemporary museums as well. So in 2 days, there are 40 travel writers and the media, like experts, like they're coming from Spain and Latin America. They will be visiting the Naguib Mahfouz museums in Gamaleya, and this is a great event for Egypt. They're flying on a charter flight to celebrate this. So museums is not only the houses, like that contains antiquities of 4,000 years ago, but still we have contemporary museums, like in Cairo, we have the ancient palaces, we have the Karaji museums, which is like 100 years ago. We have the Cairo Museum, 122 years ago. So museums can be like historical one, heritage one, and art one, and specific topics, as well we celebrate the achievements, for example, of contemporary, like a great writer Naguib Mahfouz, and the whole worldwide is celebrating with us.
Right, so the International Museum Day 2024 comes under Museums for Education and Research. So if you would like to elaborate over that very thoughtful title for 2024.
That's why really, like the ACOMOS, like they contact, like Ministry of Cultures and Tourism and Heritage worldwide and give them the title of the year, the logo and the motto of the year. So that's why museums in Cairo, they are conducting, as I already mentioned, workshops, presentations and simulations, like to introduce, like educational values, and awareness for the young men and women who will be visiting. So education and understanding is one of, like the logos that is promoted through the ECOMOS International Council of Museums this year. Each year they have a different, like theme. So this is the theme for this year, which develops, like the intellectual qualities and the qualifications of young men and women on a global scale.
So how does that theme underscore the pivotal role of cultural institutions in providing a holistic educational experience?
Yes, because, like when you go to the Cairo Museum in Tahrir, for example, and you find, like relics of the past, like this is in hieroglyphic and hieratic and demotic, and some, like in Greco-Roman as well. It's in Cairo as well as in Alexandria. So you can recognize, like the culture that has been dominating these nations worldwide with different, like languages, like culture and attitudes and mode of thinking. Something in the past, like was considered religious and respectful, and then after 100 years it will be overlooked, and so on. So culture changes and attitudes, but there are strong, like beliefs and tenets that nations they have to keep generation after generation.
Right. Speaking about international museums, they probably most, even Egyptians, not really, most of them are in full knowledge of the different museums, very rich museums all over Egypt. So if you'd like to talk to us about the most important museums and probably the historical museums that we have.
Well, of course, the Cairo Museum is the oldest and most eclectic, because it has over, like hundreds of thousands of artifacts. Then we have the Islamic Museum, the Coptic Museum, like the Hanging Church and the synagogues, like that demonstrates, like the three major, like religions that has been dominating Egypt. And then we have the Greco-Roman Museum in Alexandria. It took like about 8 years to restore and renovate and open recently. In Luxor, we have a mummification museum. We have museums again in Aswan and all over Egypt. Each government in Egypt has a national museum. This is next to the art and culture and artifacts and archaeological museums as well. So really we have a great collections of museums nationwide. We have Sobek, for example, in Komombo in Aswan, which is dedicated to the crocodiles. Like so each temple in Egypt was dedicated to some kind, like of deity, and that shows, like the diversity and the, all the beliefs of the nations and citizens who lived in Egypt 3,000-4,000 years ago.
Right. Of course, in Egypt also, what distinguished Egypt in the sense of tourism, touring around museums in Egypt, is that Egypt have in the past 10 years established modern museums, modern ideas for museums, like the Museum of Civilization, for example. If you would quickly brief us over that particular new modern idea for museums in Egypt.
This is really a great museum. I have been there 3-4 times with delegations, like coming visiting Egypt. And it's a very modern one, developed with the support of the European Union and the UNESCO and that location that has been neglected for a long time. And now, like it's in the Fustat area that has been rehabilitated and became like a tourist attraction itself. Every now visitor to Egypt, he has on his agenda visiting the Al-Fustat Museum for Civilization, the national one we have, and it's opening today as well, like commemorating this great day of International Museums Day worldwide, May 18th.
Right.
So it's a great museum as well that all of us have to visit sometime. Inshallah.
On that note, of course, Dr. Yehya Abdul, the Tourism Council, would like to thank you so much, sir, talking to us today on the Breakfast Show. But by this, we come to the end of the show for now. Many thanks to all of you. Until we see you again tomorrow morning, that's a goodbye.